these visions in my mind of a gift that's still inside. Can't believe my eyes. The moment has arrived.
Hey everybody, welcome to another night of Sanctity of Sisterhood. I am my sister's keeper. Thank you for joining and tuning in with us on tonight. I am so excited about this show tonight, dealing with family matters. Tonight we're going to talk about family conflict resolution and just how to resolve family issues. I'm excited. I have my daughter with me on tonight, Ciara. We're going to talk about some mother-daughter things. And then I have some of my cousins. So tonight, would you help me welcome Keisha on tonight? My cousin Keisha is with us, all the way from South Carolina. I love her. Thanks for joining us on tonight, Keisha. And then we have my cousin Tia with us back tonight. Y'all know her, the physical fitness guru. So we're thankful that she is with us on tonight. My other cousin is having some technical difficulties, and so hopefully she'll be able to join us on this evening. But would you do me a favor before we get started? Would you please share this video? Share the video. Hey, Caroline. Hey, Mama Yvette. Share the video for us on tonight. We want to spread the word as we deal with family issues, family matters. How many of you know that family does matter in the day that we're living in? People have a lot of issues with their families and getting along and, just dealing with certain things. So tonight I want to ask Keisha, what does family mean to you?
Family means love, being there for one another, sharing those special moments with one another, having gatherings and just celebrating life with one another.
All right.
Family to me means dysfunction. Family means strength. Family is faith. Family is holding on. Family is we come together to make all things better. Family is praying together and loving each other and respecting each other.
Absolutely. How about you, Sia?
Support people that you know are there for you, who love you, genuinely care about you. People that you know are like invested in personal and well-being because they watch you grow. So yeah, family is just fun. That's, we have fun when we link up.
So with that being said, we have my other cousin is on, Badia.
Hey guys.
Hey, Badia.
Guys, welcome my cousin Badia. She's with us tonight. Badia, why don't you tell us what family means to you?
Family means to me is strength, is wisdom, is a lot of courage, because you learn a lot of things from family. So without family, honestly, kind, you wouldn't have nothing because they teach you different. We all have different backgrounds and different aspects of life. So each family member teach you something different. So you learn from them. So it's a bondage that you create, but it's what you do in the future that comes from family, from teaching. So it's a bond that's unbreakable to me.
Absolutely. So, guys, we grew up. Our household, we grew up with our grandparents, rock of our family, and I want to talk about conflict first in families because that's very big. So, when we grew up, my grandparents were strict on us. Our grandfather was strict. He was a man of prayer. He was a man of prayer, but he had his gun in his pocket. So he really instill family values in us. He taught us that I don't care if y'all argue, you better make up within 15 minutes. He didn't.
Mhm.
He taught us not to allow, conflicts and issues to linger in our relationships. And so, that has, I believe, brought us to more like sisters and cousins. Each of us are related through my father's side of the family. We're all related in that aspect. And so, we talk about conflict. So, Keisha, what would you say has been one of the toughest things, conflicts that you may have had with your family, and how did you overcome?
Well, the only conflict that I really had was when I made a mistake and I had opened up something about Kaleem's mother and he didn't know. And the family was kind of upset with me because y'all know I always told everything. And but my father, he was angry with me, and not Tyra and all of them, they was angry with me. But after they set us down and talked, they talked to me, and it wasn't my place to tell Colleen the situation that was going on and stuff. And I understood that I shouldn't have, and they just made me like kind of keep stuff that they haven't discussed yet amongst the family. You know what I'm saying? Rather than you being the first one to tell it all and nobody knows anything about it. So I just learned to sit back and wait for the family to decide to come together and talk about things that needed to be resolved. You know what I'm saying?
That's really important because sometimes we want to just tell it all just because we know, and we got to be mindful of family. Guys, get your comments, post your comments, share the video if you're just coming in. We're talking about family matters. How about you, Tia?
Types of conflicts, family
Yeah.
conflicts. Well, for me, I don't really too much focus on conflict, but we've had some disagreements because of course we all don't think alike and we don't act alike, and but for me, most of my conflicts have come from my father's side, not really my mom's side, but my father's side. My mom's side, we've learned how to disagree and talk to each other and not gossip about each other. So that has helped us with dealing with conflicts. But on my dad's side, it was more of, with me and my dad, it was more of having to kind of pull from that relationship to make it work. So I had to actually be the peacemaker in order for things to work. But I had to learn how to be a peacemaker instead of a peacekeeper, because when we keep the peace, we just brushing things under the rug like things doesn't exist. And the Bible tells us that we're blessed when we're peacemakers. So, I've learned to be a peacemaker when it comes to dealing with conflicts.
And did that frustrate you? Always feeling like you had to, be in that position, do that?
Very frustrating. Very frustrating because sometimes you feel like you're the only one, doing the work or putting in the work. So it does, and then you also feel like, okay, if it's a parent, then why can't that parent be the bigger person? But we have to understand that everybody don't know everything, and we're all adults. So when I came to that realization, I mean, I know the word, and I study the word for myself. I ain't no preacher, but I study the word for myself, and I know that being a peacemaker is what God called us to do. So that's what I had to do.
Absolutely. How about you, Sia?
I don't think I've reached a point where I've seen any conflicts between myself and family members. None that was serious that I could think of. Probably petty stuff like me and my young and I on my father's side. Growing up, we're 5 years apart in age, so it would always annoy me. Like, would always copy everything that I do. Like, if we're eating dinner at the table and I drink juice, she want to drink juice. I eat corn, she want to little stuff like that used to bother me, but that wasn't a huge issue or anything. So I haven't really faced any real family conflict yet.
Live a little longer. You will.
You ain't made it there yet, sister.
Padilla?
Oh, well, on my, I'm kind of the same situation as Tia, because I feel like my mom's side, I have learned so much about us being together, and we can fuss 1 minute, next minute we back loving each other, dancing, and you know what I'm saying, in the living room, or it's just the way our bond is. But it's kind of a little bit tough on my dad's side because there's more guards being put up on that side. But I try to intervene and be the peacemaker, but I also have to sit back and realize that I can't put my situation from what I learned on my mom's side into that side because it's kind of tough. But instead of, you got to understand what they went through or growing up on that side, you got to sit back and understand how stuff went on in their life. So I listen more. But as far as conflict, we really don't have any conflict. It's just stuff that I try to settle there's conflict between them and each other.
Well, that's good because a lot of times in family relationships, we are not always going to see eye to eye because we all don't think alike, right? So it's something that we all have in common is, all here, and we have, I don't want to say daddy issues, but we've all had a issue, within our families with our fathers, right? And so if because that's another issue in family, as young ladies, as women growing up, sometimes, we always have people look for a relationship in their dad, like they look for a relationship outside of what they father. So if you didn't have love, it's hard to receive love, or for some people, they look for it in other men, right? So I want to say, Keisha, you and your dad for a lot of time they're married, and then they weren't. And so, how was it for you dealing with your dad and growing up into the woman that you are now?
Wow. Well, my father, my dad was my father was there, you know what I'm saying? I really didn't have no issues with him not being there and stuff, but I've almost wanted a man just like my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad always took me somewhere with him, or my dad always like catered to my needs, and like, they say that your dad is your first love, or you want to marry somebody just like your father. You know what I'm saying? Some things, yeah, but not everything. Um, but I just had that relationship with my father till like I was daddy's little girl, so I really didn't have any issues, with my father and stuff like that. But as far as trying to find love and marriage and all that stuff, those are the things that you want. But, like I said, not all things.
Yeah.
Well, with me, I'm the total opposite. So I've always looked for look in men for the opposite of what my father was. So I mean, because my dad is an introvert, I'm an introvert. And plus he doesn't talk, he doesn't open up. And so, which was really, really hard on our relationship when it came to trying to figure out what's really going on with him, and him trying to figure out what's really going on with me. So I always wanted the total opposite. I've always wanted a person that was open, a person that could understand me, a person that I could understand. And I just, even with my mom, I've never, my mom was on drugs most of my life. I mean, I love my mom, but she was on drugs most of my life. But like, those are things that I learned not to do. So really, they helped me become the woman that I am. Those are things that I did not want to become, that I just did not want to do. If I ever had kids, I did not want to do that to my kids. I never wanted my children to have to figure out, what's going on with mommy, and why is mommy not speaking to me, or why mommy always angry. And I just didn't want that. Or, so I always wanted to be the total opposite from my parents.
Padilla?
Well, mine, I mean, I really can't speak too much on it because I didn't know. I mean, I knew my dad, but I didn't know too much about him. And I knew what, I'm saying, my mother or my grandmother them told me. But as far as me going off of that, as far as my work ethic, I got that from both my mom and my dad. And I thank God for it. But I take what I lost from that and I put that strength into what I'm doing now. So as far as me looking for in a man what my dad was, I can't say what that is, but I know what to look for by being around my granddad. And I know to use my brain. So if you ain't coming off with the same way I'm coming off, work hard and focus. Right. That's my main goals. I'm looking for somebody that's focused, and that should always be the first mentality of anything. And if you ain't focused and you can't get them coins, like Papa used to say, hey, I'm sitting in the back on that
money.
I mean, it ain't all about it, but you got to have a good mind frame. Your mind frame got to be focused, and you got to keep God first with everything that you do. Because I mean, we fail, but you got to have the mindset to get back up. So that's on my behalf, I feel.
Tiara?
For a little stint, my biological dad wasn't. For a short period of time, my dad wasn't in my life. Until Dwayne came around when I was around like 11, 12. So I grew up kind of feel like I need a because he wasn't there. So it's like you can't really miss what's not there. If he was there before I could, realize what it was. I started to kind of go down a path where I wanted attention from guys because I didn't have that male attention. But that's where family comes in because they know it. And like my mom caught me quick and was like, this is not the path I go down. So it kind of affected me in a way, but I'm glad that I have people around me that I get. So now my father, my stepfather, and they're both like two separate fathers from, different walks, but they both help me and really appreciate the relationships that I have.
Right, because when you have relationships build bonds. And I Tiara, and Dwayne has always tried to teach Tiara, though your father is not around, still love your father. Sometimes you got to let people mature into what they are going to be. I say all the time, like, if you're not your parent, or if you're not for these things, like, you shouldn't get into it. But sometimes things happen and you don't know. Every level got to learn for into the position that they find themselves in. And so, with that being said, what would you say to a young lady who feels like she's searching for a father in someone that she wants to date? Tia?
Well, first and foremost, we have to learn to love ourselves before before the dating, before anything. We have to teach these young women and men how to love themselves. Because if you love yourself, you know what you want, and you know what you're not about to accept. So, regardless of how you grew up, because it takes a village to raise a child. So you take wisdom from some people, you take the negative from some people, you put that stuff together, and you make something of yourself. And so when you learn to love yourself, you don't. I mean, what your dad did in life will not affect you, because I love me. So whatever happened in my life with my dad, and I mean, I had a traumatic experience because I dealt with child molestation. So, but because I love myself and because I learned how to face the conflict and I dealt with it, none of that affected me. None of that. Not. Go ahead.
So you just brought up something. You said you dealt with child molestation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you said that you're over it, like you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to tell them how you over, because for a lot of women that's a stronghold. It's a touch point. They don't know how to child molestation in their adult years.
Yeah, that it took a long time. So when you see these women coming out 20 and 30 years later, if you ain't never dealt with that, don't comment. Don't comment. Because it took me 25 years to actually open up about that situation. Because the only person who knew about it was my father and my grandmother. And it took me a long time for a long time. I made myself believe that I was making it up. So from 8 years old to adulthood, I made myself believe that I was actually really making that up. Until one day I heard a word. I was in Kuwait, and I heard this preacher preach a word, and he said, "You got to deal with these things. Like it was some things that's bothering some people, and you need to deal with it. You need to get over it. You need to forgive these people in order for you to move forward." So at that point, the first person I emailed was my grandmother. And I asked her, does she remember me saying something about it? And when she responded, yes, I sent that email to everybody on that side of the family.
Wow.
So my stepmom is on here. She could tell you, no one knew about this. No one. And so I just really had to come to a point that I wasn't making this up. It happened. And in order for me to live a life that I'm going to be something and be somebody and not let this weigh me down, I had to face it. That's why I said that unresolved conflict stuff, that stuff will mess your life up. That stuff blocks your blessings. That stuff blocks your happiness. And it also blocks your relationship with God. Because the word says, if you at odds within your relationships, you can't be right with God. So I had to come to terms with what was going on within me. And it was that word, that preached word. It's nothing that can make a woman open up about that until she feels comfortable in herself to open up about that. You have to really feel comfortable because you don't know what those people are capable of. It was my grandfather, so I can put that out there. He was my grandfather on my dad's side. But everybody was afraid of him. Everybody was afraid of him. So I understood why my grandmother didn't say anything at that time. I knew she was scared. But my dad, I could not understand that when I went to him, why he wouldn't help me, because I'm your child. You should ride or die for me. I understand her, but I didn't understand him. And so I wasn't even mad at my grandfather. I was angry with my dad. I have forgave my grandfather. I even had a relationship with my grandfather after that. I mean, I seriously, I forgave everybody except my dad. So I really had to come to terms with that within myself. So everybody has to find that place where they feel comfortable with opening up with stuff like that.
I totally agree. How about you, Ciara?
Right.
How you resolve conflict, you know, within yourself?
Resolving conflict with myself comes from praying and my relationship with God. As I'm growing and I'm learning that your relationship with God shouldn't depend on transparency more after a certain age. So any conflict at some point brings it up to me and I thought about it to ask me move past certain conflict.
How about you, Keisha? How have you resolved conflict within yourself?
Well, within myself, at one point, I did soul searching, because you have, like my cousin said, like you have to deal with self first, and you have to love yourself. If you don't love yourself enough to resolve the issues that's within yourself first before you enter the world or enter friendships, whatever type of atmosphere that you're going to enter, you must deal with self. And I tell a lot of people to do soul searching, praying, read the Bible, study the word, because first and foremost, God is going to be the one to remove those uh, conflicts or issues that we have dealing within ourselves. So it just takes a lot of prayer and where you want to be at mentally, physically, and emotionally. Like you have to get to a place to where you want peace from those conflicts that you're dealing with. And the only way that you can get that peace is to pray to God and ask Him to help you with your inner demons, because that's what they are. They are inner demons. If we hold on for stuff so long, without forgiving the people that hurt us or whatever the case may be, we still have to forgive, and then we have to work on ourselves. So I always say, so do a little bit of soul searching, and really find out what those issues are within yourself. We got to stop giving those demons power over our minds, because once we do, it's like they have control. They have control. They have control over your mind, because Satan wants you to stay in that miserable space. He doesn't want you to grow. He doesn't want you to excel. He doesn't want you to love. He doesn't want you to do those things. But we have to find it in ourselves on how, like my cousin said, on what we want and how we want to be.
Right, absolutely. So Ashley says, outside of praying and being prayer, I found detoxing from everyone, counseling. You're absolutely right. Listen, I've always saying it. It's okay to talk to someone. It's okay, a Christian counselor. You don't always have to go to the pastor. It's really okay to go lay on the couch and talk to somebody. That is beneficial for you, because it will help release everything. Sometimes you may not feel like you could go to your family members and release it, because some people are poor enough to handle your release. So it's a question. What have been the triggers in your life that has caused you to run to your family and trust your family to help guide you through your process?
It's well, as y'all know, I lost my son in '08, and I was going through a trying time at that time, and I was going through depression and blaming myself, but I had to acknowledge that God has the last say so. I can't control what he does, but I can listen. So I went through a lot of emotions. I went through a lot of seeing things, and that brought me to where I am now. But through everything that we had said, you got to acknowledge your truth. Because if you don't acknowledge your truth, you don't acknowledge nothing. It's the same way as a disease. A disease can eat at you until you acknowledge that that disease is there. So to me, being around family, you get to express more. Maybe sometimes on the outside, you might get an outsider that might be that understand you, but your family will help you out of that conflict. But you first got to lay it out on the table. You can't hide nothing, because hiding behind the mirror ain't gonna save your soul.
That's right.
So for me, you just got to be honest with yourself. You gotta come out and lay everything on the table. Because if you want truth, that's the only way you're gonna get it, especially from the person that you're trying to get it from. I mean, we can't go out here and try to go to somebody else and tell somebody else what to do when we don't acknowledge our own self. Nobody's perfect, but at the same time, if you want to help somebody, you got to be able to help yourself first. So truth is a big part in acknowledging any conflict, or before you go to anybody about any situation, you got to let them know what you've been through, or how you got through it, or what can I do for somebody to help me. You got to acknowledge yourself first.
I totally that we've got to learn to acknowledge our truths, right? And then deal with it. Tiara, why don't you talk to us about acknowledging? How have you been able to deal with that?
I was recently in a relationship that I would call my relationship, and it's definitely taught me the biggest thing about myself. Getting into a relationship, you think I'm with somebody I like, and then relationship, I started noticing that in order that, first of all, somebody want me to be happy now. A lot for me, because it's like I'm responsible for somebody else. I signed up for that. So as a relationship is about myself, that I was like, are you really ready to be in a relationship? And then that's where, again, family comes in, because you go to your family who are older than you to learn about situations. For the most part, all of you guys have been like in relationships or in successful relationships. So I know that I can go any one of you four and have a conversation about, okay, well, me and my boyfriend going through this. So it caused me to take a step back from that relationship, because I realized that there was myself that I did not think would act or behave if I was in a relationship. So families definitely help me, because you guys give me so many examples and so many stories and so many different ways. Okay, well, maybe you can go about it this way. Because if it was just in my own thinking, I'd probably, I don't know.
Right. So Verna has a question. What do you do if you go to that said person and you don't get the truth you are expecting?
Okay, so I have a 7-step process I do when I'm going to resolve a conflict. But I'm just going to take you to the 7 steps. But I'm going to take you to the 7th step. The 7th step is to try to look for reconciliation as opposed to resolution, because reconciliation just means that you said, hey, we're going to let this go. We're going to be at peace with what's going on with us, and we're going to bury the hatchet. Resolution is, oh, we're going to resolve everything, which you know that's not reality. You know what I'm saying? You can't always resolve everything. You have to be able to agree to disagree and unity and not uniformity. You know, you walk hand in hand and not see eye to eye.
That's right.
You have to get to that place where you're not looking to be right. You're not looking to be wrong. You're just looking to make peace. That's why I say you have to be a peacemaker. If you cannot be a peacemaker, you're gonna always have the conflict. The conflict is within us. We don't argue about ideas and issues. We argue about emotions. The emotions is what triggers everything. Not every situation. It's the way we respond to the situation. So we have to get to that place where we can reconcile and not just look for resolution.
Keisha, has there been a time where you looked for resolution over reconciliation, and how did that work out for you?
Yeah. Well, none of y'all know this, but when I was in New York with my father, he asked me to do him a favor, and I did the favor. Y'all know all back then, they were doing certain things and stuff. But anyway, me and my father stopped talking for like almost 4 years. Because of what he asked me to do, because I'm saying like no father should ever ask their child to do something that you probably wouldn't ask someone else to do, in your family. So I wanted him to apologize to me, and I was expecting him to apologize to me, and he didn't. So I immediately just stopped talking to him, like I said, for 4 years. And that wasn't me and my father's relationship. I could go to my father and talk to him just about any and everything, you know. And for him to not um acknowledge what I was trying to get him to understand and how I felt, there was no point. So we couldn't come to an agreement because he like my sister down here, Tia said, I wanted to be right. I knew I was right, but he wanted to be right and didn't want to acknowledge that he was wrong. So I just, after 4 years, I was like, Lord, I gotta forgive him. I gotta forgive myself for what I did because I didn't have to do it. You know what I'm saying? So we just kind of dealt with it and let it go. So that's really the only thing that I can say. That so it was more of a reconcile than it was, the other word that she said. Yeah, reconciliation. So that's what it was.
Would you agree, Badia, that sometimes you just got to give up your rights?
I said that again. I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
Would you agree that sometimes you give up your rights for the relationship?
Sometimes, to me, yes. Sometimes you do, because if you're not trying to hear both sides of the truth, then is no restoring in it, because you got to be able to come to an agreement on it. So yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm finished.
I've learned that, in every family, there's going to be some people that, are just come back, right? There's always an issue. There's always something going on. They always feel like, someone up on them or someone more than them. I've had to deal with that, and I'm coming with my question. I recently had to deal with that even now, and I'm trying to restore my relationship with my biological, because we were taught that is you rock out with your family no matter what. And so, it took a while to get the fact that I kept trying to have a relationship with someone who didn't want to have a relationship with me. And that was very hurtful. And I realized that it was me. It was just because she felt like I had more of my dad did, or I had more growing up than she did, because my parents were married. So for a family member to feel like, I'm in the family, not of the family, how do we resolve those? Like, I feel like I say that you say that I'm part of it, but I don't feel like I'm part of the family. Yeah.
So with that, okay, let's go to my fourth step. I wrote my steps down. I wrote my steps down. Okay, so we have to listen for other people's hurt and their perspective. We have to listen for their hurt and their perspective. We have to seek to understand before we seek to be understood, because the problem is that we throw our own beliefs and stuff on people, and we want people to just feel like or you feel like what I'm saying is right, or how I'm saying it is right, and there's no other way. My father been on drugs all my life, so no, I didn't have him as much as you think I had him. But you have to listen to her perspective. You have to listen to her hurt. She doesn't know that. All she knows is that you've been in the house with your mom and dad all your life.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know the extent to what's going on with you and your family. All she knows is that he's there. And some people just need people to be there. Even though he was on drugs and he might not have been around, he was there. And if you needed a dad, he was there. And you know, I mean, anytime we needed something from Uncle Cleon, he was there.
That's
Drugs
right.
and all. So we have to take ourselves out of it. Sometimes we have to take ourselves out of it. We have to listen to these people. We have to listen to their hurt. We have to understand where it comes from before we jump and say, well, she's just being immature. She's being immature about the situation. You don't know where she came from. You don't know where she came from to get to that space of immaturity. So we have to learn how to seek to understand before we seek to be understood.
I need them 7 steps.
You got to understand before we seek to be understood. That is an amazing statement, because a lot of times we just want to be heard. Of course, we want to get it out there, get it off our chest. But we got to understand that our family members, though we're all it's different. We all feel different. And while we all, I mean, our grandparents were amazing. Were they? Absolutely not. But they taught us how to get along with each other and how not to cut each other off, not to or harm regarding one another. And so our best learner is key. And so, you know, yes, T gonna send us these 7 steps, y'all. Before
Yes.
he down these 7 steps. But like, I've never seen Tia is not an emotional person. I've never seen ever. Never. Keisha, she's not emotional, but she's very about what she feels, and I love that about her. Me and Keisha always didn't get along growing up. Always, so we didn't, because I would feel like Keisha was trying to come for me because my father didn't make little statements, and so we would fight. Am I lying to you? We would fight.
No.
Okay? We knew our grandparents did, and that our aunts did not take our. So we knew that we better get it right before sundown. So we come up here and say, listen, you guys have, listen, you having an issue with your family members or your sister, get it right. It's not worth it. Make adjustments in your life to be better for you, and then extend love to your family members. Not just winding up, not just for that, but because it's important. Family matters. But yes, why does family matter to you? Wait, let me read this first. Yvette says people always want to is immature because they don't want to deal or hear what is being said. I absolutely agree with you, Yvette. Just hold on. Yara, would you agree with that? Would you agree with that?
I would agree with you.
Why?
I would agree with Yvette because pretty much for the reasons that it's not about being right. That's something that I've always struggled with growing up. At some point, I did very combative with everybody, and the main thing that my mom told me was, "You're not always right. Where you're right all the time." So I know I'm not right, but I feel like I'm right now. So that's always been the thing that goes back. And it's definitely, I definitely had to learn that dealing with people, I have to do exactly what you guys said, the right part, because no matter what you think you're right, and for that you feel that they're not right, that's why they are right. So as something that peace and that gotta let it go and be what it is. Whatever at this point. I'd rather peace than being.
I told you Yara, because she gotta have the last word. And so other to show that's not okay, because you go through life thinking you're all right.
Mm-hmm.
Why you not right? And so you gotta learn lessons while you're growing, rather than just speaking out of turn or just doing stuff out of emotion. So, Badia, tell us how do you feel about conflict resolution in the family?
Conflict resolution in the family. I think it's more. It's more, to me. This is more hard to resolve, but to me, it's more easy to resolve because you grew up around your family, so you know what do's and don'ts. You know what buttons to push, or what to say at that point. I mean, as you get older, we all change. We all gonna change, but we form more of a bond, a bond that we face with each other. So it's not too hard, and I can say from our side, it's not too hard for us to resolve conflicts because of how we was raised. So understanding and listening is the key of resolving all conflict. So in order for you to, just like Tia said, you have to listen. You have to listen to each other. You got to understand each other. You got to know what a person went through. Even, I don't care if it's 10 years from now. Sit down and resolving the conflict is easier with family because you know your family. You grew up with your family, so you know what to say to them.
Keisha, I want you to encourage maybe here tonight feeling like, well, I didn't have. I'm not close with my family. Encourage them. What would you say to a friend or someone else who wants to have that bond and figure out what's the best way?
Well, like Tia stated before, you have to be an active listener to what the problem was for y'all to get to that place to where you can't resolve anything. First and foremost, your family got to have love for one another. You must love one another in order to be able to sit down as a family to say, okay, well, who wants to start this? And say, well, if I did something to offend you, I apologize. And you have to mean it. Like, you have to be sincere in your apology. If you want to resolve anything with your family, I mean, you have to listen. It's like being criticized. Like, you don't want nobody to criticize you, but when you're around your family, you need to hear those things. You know what I'm saying? You need, somebody could say, well, you know what? If I tell you something, don't tell nobody, and then you go and tell it, and they get upset with you, or it could be something even deeper than that. But and now with time, it's the little things that will break up a family. Money, or she talking about me behind my back with this cousin over here, whatever the case may be. But you have to be actively listening to what the person is telling you in order for y'all to resolve the issue. You can't be talking while that person is talking because you can't hear. And you have to hear them and really take it in. So if I was to say anything to anybody, just love your family like you said before, and just really take the time out to listen to one another and find out how did you get to that place to not speak, because it can really, really, really tear up a family if two people is not speaking. How can y'all get together and stuff like that? So just listen and love.
Yeah, like the Bible says, how can two agree? That doesn't just mean in marriage.
Right.
Family, you need to agree. Sometimes agreeing is different, and that is perfectly. It's all the place. I think Tia said it's the place that they're in. Your maturity, you got to learn how to respect your family members because they might not be who you are in life. They might not, just because I'm past wife, I'm the first now I come to the family function. That I know it. I do that now. I got my family that are not in Christ or that don't know God the way that I my job to be a light, to be a drawer, to pull them in, show them the way. We got to learn how to by example. We got to see what the change that we want to see in our family. And I feel like if we do that more and trying to point the finger, cutting our family members off, we better off. Tia, talk to me about our
Cutting your family off. That's foreign to me. cutting your family off, cutting relationships off. Period. I mean, somebody that means something to you, your loved ones, your family. You have to remember. I know everybody on here may not be Christians, may not go to church, but we have to remember that the Bible, God states that if our relationships is not right, it's worse than anything. Like if you can't fix your relationship, you shouldn't even be going to church. You turn to Matthew 5:23. He said, leave your offering here, go fix your relationship, then come back and worship. So that is more important than anything. So you cutting your family off, I can't even answer that. That's foreign. Like that ain't even biblical. That ain't even the word. So if you're doing that, you are doing yourself a disservice. Let me take y'all to step 5. I'm just step 5.
Step 5.
Step 5. Speak your truth tactfully. I'm telling you. Book of Ephesians is talking about speaking your truth in love, not using harmful words. Say words that edify. So, because that's our problem as African Americans, we always have an attitude. Look, like, I mean, we are from New York, so we talking our hands and stuff anyway. But I mean, we have to learn how, like, some of the words we use, the language, the movements, the attitude. We have to learn how to be more tactful. Not using harmful words when we talking to people about dealing with conflict. To be more rational, to understand where they're coming from. Because, like I said, we argue over emotions, just like a child. Let me take, for example, you have a child, 5, 6-year-old. Daddy goes in the room and starts yelling at the child. Child runs in to his mom and like, Daddy's yelling at me. Daddy's mad at me. Mom is like, well, why is Daddy mad? Child like, I don't know. I was playing my game. All he got was that emotion. He didn't even get the point. He didn't know why Daddy was mad. He missed the whole lesson because Daddy was angry and Daddy was yelling and Daddy was screaming and Daddy said, "You're on punishment." All he got was Daddy's mad and disappointed at me. So we have to learn how to be more tactful. Speak our truth in love. Go to people in love.
Amen, sister.
Yeah, you know, when people say, "Oh, that's just who I'm like," "Oh, I'm keeping it real," like, come on, because if you're keeping it real, it's offensive to someone else. Well, if it hurts someone else's feelings in your truth, to keep it real with them, that's a problem. When you said, the Bible talks about leave your gift at the altar, go back, right? And even you trying to go back and make it, if they don't receive you, it says go back and bring somebody with you.
That's right.
Be able to be a mediator and help about,
yes,
right? And so, and reconciliation, because that's all within our family. So if you got an issue with a family member or something that's not right, listen, and you go to church, God ain't hearing you. I'm sorry. I don't care how much you preach. I don't care how much you sing. I don't care how much work you do. If you don't leave all of that at the altar and go back and make it right with your family, God can't hear you. It is the word. It is the word. It is not my word. It is the word of God. And we've got to learn how to start operating in and out of the word of God and not our emotions.
Yes.
Help us. You are a younger generation. So how would you say you're learning to deal with conflict resolution, whether it be with your friends? You talked about a relationship earlier. How would you do?
I would say that my generation is definitely more on the side of, well, if I got a problem with you, we gonna fight, and that's what I figure out, you know, who's right. Because if I beat you up, you can't be right about nothing. Um, that's not always right. Violent things can happen in the midst. It definitely takes growing to realize how to handle certain situations, and knowing how to handle the different situations, and knowing that whatever you're used to doing is probably something wrong. Like if you're used to arguing just because you feel like you should be right, or anything like that, it's just knowing how to handle differently, and knowing what situation to call for, what specific actions you're supposed to take when you're dealing with different people and different emotions, because everything everything isn't the same. So you just have to know how to handle yourself in any situation.
Absolutely. I'm so proud of my she's
I agree.
been coming into her own, and just I love to hear from young people, because it's important that we hear from our young
Mhm.
on how they're dealing with conflict resolution, because so many of the young people are killing each other, they're dying, and
Mhm.
we've got to be able to affect how to talk to them effectively, so that way when they go out to their friends who don't have the same family upbringing. I always tell Sierra, she used to always say, how my friends get to hang out late, how come I can't? Because I'm not their mother. I like, we weren't raised like that. And so that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It just means that, you have another opportunity to present something different to your family. So thank you guys for tuning in. I want each of my cousins to leave a word of encouragement with you briefly. We're gonna go with Keisha, then Batia, then Sia, and then Sia.
No matter what it is in your family, it's nothing that you cannot resolve. Pray about it. Go to your family and sit down and talk about it, work it out, because family is all we got and family is everything. I love you guys. Take care. God bless. And I hope that we help somebody tonight.
Hey guys, I want to leave you this message that embrace your family. Love your family no matter what. It may be hard days that you won't be able to feel like you can't forgive them, or you want to just give up the relationship, but it's not worth it. Family is a lot. Through tests and trials, you will learn a lot through family. Just sit down and hash it out. Sit down and hash it out and get to know each other, what you've been through. Just explain to each other what you got going on. Because understanding is the key, guys. I apologize. My phone, I'm sorry. But understanding is the key. So love y'all and God bless y'all.
My words of encouragement from a millennial is speaking to my generation. It's extremely important to have your relationship with God. I know that our in today's times it's not super important to speak about God, to speak about your Christian life, your walk, but it's very important to have a relationship with God. And then I think that once your relationship with God is in order, that then transfers over into your relationship with family and friends, because all of those things are synced into each other. When you're on the right path, God can help you learn how to make certain decisions. Family is super important, and I feel like we all have family members that we don't get along with, or that when we're around them, it's always a problem or super combative. But I feel like just know that God is love. So the only way that you should answer those situations from now on is with love. Once, my parents always told me, once you know, now you're accountable for your actions. So me telling you right now is making you accountable. Love your family, whether you like them or you don't. You're hearing me say it, so it's true now. Go to them with love. When you're faced with hurtful things, with people who've said hurtful things, people who've done hurtful things to you, you have to realize that it's not up to you to fight that battle. And if you go to church, you have a relationship with God, you'll know that. So just leave it up to him. Let him do what he do and sit back and live peace.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining us. I will leave y'all with my 7 steps. Step 1 is make the first move. The best thing to do for a conflict is to face it. Step 2, ask God for wisdom on how to approach a situation. Step 3, begin with what's my fault. Begin the conversation with the role you played in the conflict. Step 4, listen for the hurt and their perspective. Step 5, speak your truth tactfully and in love. Step 6, fix the problem, not the blame. Step 7, focus on reconciliation and not resolution. And I will leave you with, let's be bridge builders and not wall builders. Let's bring people together and not tear people apart. God has given us this ministry of restoring relationships, and God has forgiven us over and over again. So who are we not to forgive our brothers and sisters and our families and friends, loved ones? So let's think about that. And you guys continue to be peacemakers, and we love you because we are our sisters' keepers.
Yes, Tia. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in tonight to the Sanctity of Sisterhood, this discussion tonight on family matters. I want to thank you. I want to challenge you. If you're having an issue with a family member, with a loved one, with someone you considered a sister, make it right. The Bible says, how many times must I forgive? Jesus says 70 times 7. Keep on forgiving. No matter what. Listen, it's in you. It's there. Sometimes you got to reach deep down inside to pull it out, but get to the point where you can forgive someone, where you can love someone, and not just use the term, I love you, with the love of God. Really love people, because sometimes it's going to take you to love people where they are to help pull them out of what they're in. I love you. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Share this video out for me on tonight. Let's spread the word that family matters. God bless you. I love you. Good night. This is the Sanctity of Sisterhood. I am my sister's keeper. What about you? Good night.